예, 안녕하세요. 제가 저기 매트모어스 9월 말에 왔을 때 저희 스튜디오에서 둘이서 한 40분 정도 이제 영어로 인터뷰를 진행했었습니다. 지금 돌이켜 보면 내용이 참 좋아요. 주로 이제 미중 전쟁에 관한 얘기, 그런 얘기가 많았고, 또 미국의 보수 혁명에 대한 이야기, 이런 얘기가 좀 있었는데, 다시 들어봐도 좀 재미나고 좋은 내용인데, 제가 워낙 정신이 없어서 번역을 못 하고 있었어요. 근데 이 사정을 알은 저희 이제 친한 동지 프리덤 파이터님께서 재능 기부를 해주시겠다. 그래서 한 40분짜리를 번역을 해서 보내주셨는데, 본인이 직접 자막까지 다 영상 작업까지 해서 너무 감사합니다. 프리덤 파이터님. 또 번역질이 엄청 좋아요. 그래서 제가 굉장히 까다로운 놈인데 딱 한 군데밖에 못 잡아냈어요. 그래서 제가 유감입니다. 아무튼 프리덤 파이터님 감사합니다. 그리고 이 인터뷰 즐감해 주십시오. 네, 감사합니다. 예, 안녕하세요. 세뇌탈출입니다. 미국에서 온 매트모어스 씨를 모시고 트럼프 행정부 또 트럼프의 재선 이런 여러 가지 문제를 한번 말씀을 여쭤보겠습니다. Hello, Mr. Mewes. Nice to meet you.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for, having this program with my viewers. Thank you.
No, absolutely.
So now it has been a couple of days, several days since you arrived here.
It has been, yeah. I've been here since Monday, and then I leave in a couple of days. So.
And yesterday we had a great seminar, public seminar, and then afternoon we have a closed door seminar, and then today, this morning, you met some important people, and then you see all the demonstrations.
It was amazing being able to experience today and see free speech at work. So.
I see. So
yeah, it was amazing.
Actually, we are in the middle of a very serious, conflict of ideas and perspectives in this country these days. Okay, so the first question, we believe that there is I would call it a war, not an economic war, because it has many implications on politics or other things. So the U.S.-China war. And we conservative Koreans believe that it is a war of values, war of civilization, in a sense. But how would you put that war? I mean, how would you say the basic characteristics of the war?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it really falls into two different components. And I was with President Trump when he announced his national security strategy. And it was the first time in American history that a national security document actually acknowledged the global competition between the U.S. and China. And that stems really into a couple of different areas. We hear a lot about the economic discussions right now, and specifically with regards to trade. The U.S. is just asking China to act like a fair, free market if that's how they want to be treated. The U.S. actually sponsored China to come into the World Trade Organization in 2001. 2001. And yet they still continue to claim that they're a developing economy when they're a recently developed economy. They have opaque rules when it comes to setting their monetary policy and currency.
They're very opaque. Yeah, that's right.
They also continue to steal intellectual property. They do forced technology transfers. And it's not a reciprocal trade relationship between them and really any country. They also don't make it easy for outside investors, yet they get the benefit of easy investment rules in other countries. So the fact is they just haven't been operating on a level playing field for decades now. And President Trump is really the first president of either party in America to actually challenge China on this discussion. The other piece of that, of course, is the idea and the competition of what it really means to be a liberal democracy. What it means to give people free speech, the ability to have free will to choose their own leaders, the freedom of religion, which we're seeing right now in China, really a degradation of people. Over 1 million Muslims who are being kept in camps in China right now for indefinite periods of time. There's crackdown on Tibetan monks who are lighting themselves on fire instead of letting the government tell them how to live their lives. You've got the fact that they won't even let the Catholic Church choose their own bishops. So that's really what this competition is about. Are we going to go the way of China in the world? Are we going to go the way of the United States and countries like Republic of Korea who value free speech, who value free will for its people and democracy and democratic values? Or are we going to go with the way of the Chinese, which is a very centralized government where people don't have say over their own futures? I think I know what I'd like for the future of our world, and I think you might agree with me as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, when I visited China, I visited there, more than 10 times, and I saw a sign on a street quite often, which says, "Liberal democracy is the enemy of China."
Amazing, amazing. So sad, right?
Yeah, a very big placard. You can find the placard quite often there, and the Chinese economy and the Korean economy is very closely intertwined or coupled or engaged. Actually, I'm the one who used the term disengagement or decoupling for this U.S.-China war.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm the one. And Mr. Gordon Chang or other people now began saying it.
Right.
I think they can understand Korean.
You should have copyrighted it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so because I thought about it and I just found out that, what is this? This is kind of decoupling, kind of a disengagement. So actually we have to go through, the Korean people have to go through some rough process.
Right.
But many people here, and more people here, will get determined to go through that period of restructuring.
And you see that same will and resolve in the United States. I mean, there are a number of farmers, particularly in the pork and soybean sectors, who have had challenges because of the ongoing trade dispute between the U.S. and China. Yet they are so committed to ensuring that there is a level playing field moving forward. They're thankful to President Trump for drawing attention, actually tackling these challenges. And part of that is because they are the industries that have had to work in the Chinese market. They know how unfair it's been. And so even though there's a little bit of short-term pain, they're confident that long-term it's going to be in their best interest as well.
Yeah, but how about the Wall Street guys? These money guys, and they are quite reluctant to, they are quite opposed to this U.S.-China antagonism. Yeah,
well,
right?
But because there's a bigger piece at stake than just, how it benefits Wall Street, right? This really has to be about, is China going to be a fair competitor on the international markets?
And domestically a more liberal country, more democratic country.
Right, that's right.
Okay, and internet. Actually, a lot of people are talking about this one road and one belt, and a lot of people are talking about this small island, small artificial island in between the Vietnam, Philippines, and China. But actually, what the biggest stake is Korean Peninsula, the linchpin. And they have a name for that, the first island chain. And when you look at the first island chain scenario, it is composed of like a Japanese islands, and then Okinawa and Taiwan. So the China openly stated that west of that, the first island chain is Chinese influence sphere. So that sphere comprises Korean Peninsula. So that is why I am saying that the biggest stake actually is the Korean Peninsula.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and you look at the Belt and Road Initiative on behalf of China, and what it is it's in the best interest of China, but not in the best interest of the other countries involved. You look at the fact that what they'll often do is use predatory loans to actually backing these individual companies, use predatory loans to take over assets from these countries. Look no further than Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka actually had a deep water seaport developed and built by the Chinese. They did it because there was an offer of quick, easy cash in order to build it, and they wanted to show a sign of progress. Yet when they couldn't pay the loan back, the Chinese government took over that deep sea water port to use for their navy. The fact of the matter is that is happening across the world right now. I've seen it firsthand in a lot of sub-Saharan Africa, where you get off of the plane and the first thing you see is a giant billboard that says, welcome to Zambia, paid for by the Bank of China.
Yeah, that means that this airport now belongs to Bank of China because of that predatory or whatever.
Yes.
That's the loan.
Yep. And so all this is an ability to help China, not the countries. And so it's so important that, especially, the United States has been talking to allies and saying that we're not going to force countries to choose between one or the other, because that's up to each country to make that decision. But what we would encourage is for leaders of these countries to make smart decisions for their own people, so that they're not indebted to the Chinese for generations to come.
Okay, I think, now what is now questioned worldwide, especially after great Hong Kong people began their fight, began their demonstrations. Throughout the world, people are now beginning to wonder about one China. So now, but still, the U.S. Does not deny the principle of one China. What would you say about that?
Yeah, the U.S. government still has publicly stated its support for one China policy. However, China also has to respect the rules and the agreements that they've made for places like Hong Kong and Taiwan. It's very important for them to respect those rules. And that's I don't want to say that's a precondition for that, but what I will say is that will always be considered in the context of the relationship. Is China honoring its agreements there? You
mean so-called one country, two systems? So they made the Chinese government has made commitments or promise to keep two systems.
That's right.
Now they are they are just don't abide their own words. So in a sense, then the conclusion might be, then why should we respect Chinese one China principle if they don't keep the promise of two systems?
So you saw President Trump just earlier this week in his UN speech address Hong Kong and at the UN discuss it. So I think this is going to be a topic of conversation that is going to continue to be raised with the Chinese.
Actually, when I heard his speech at the UN General Assembly, something ran down through my spine. He very sincerely was actually asked President Xi to do the proper things with regard to Hong Kong. And Trump said that we and the whole world are watching you.
Right.
And you are going to make a judgment based on what you do about Hong Kong.
Right.
That is basically what Mr. Trump said.
Well,
quite impressive.
Yeah, it was, and part of the reason it was is because it shows that President Trump isn't trying to be antagonistic towards the Chinese. That's not his goal. His goal is simply to ensure that China acts as a good faith actor. His goal is to make sure that the government there starts delivering for its own people. America has always stood with the people of China. It's why Richard Nixon went to China in 1972 in order to open up the door for economic activity. It's why America helped bring China into the World Trade Organization. These weren't done to benefit the government, but to benefit the people of that nation. Because we think that's in the best interest when we're helping all people. But it's about time that the government starts acting like that, responsible actors that they should be as well.
Yeah, I don't think that Trump has to be antagonistic toward China, but still, I really appreciate he is holding on some very basic principles and values. Then now the ball is on the Chinese court.
That's right.
If they choose the wrong road, the situation can go sour. If they choose the right road, everything will be okay.
Right. And you would think what President Trump's asking them to do is just honor their previous commitments.
That's right.
That's it.
Be a normal state.
That's right. If they want to become a leader in this world, they need to start acting like it.
That's right. Okay. And now, as for the nuclear arms and missiles of the North Korea, many people here, a person like me, believe that actually North Korea is doing the business for Chinese, a kind of a provocative actor on behalf of China. North Korea is doing what China cannot do openly. That is what we feel like. What we feel. But I don't want you to agree with me. You are in a very subtle position to agree with that. But still, anyway, many people here, especially the so-called conservative media. I don't think they are conservative at all, but the establishment media, big media, is whenever there is a chance, they are talking about Trump selling out security to Pyongyang and Beijing. That means Trump can anytime make a deal with North Korea and recognizing North Korea as a de facto nuclear armed country. So that means Trump's commitment to CVID or FFVD, whatever you call it, is not sincere enough. That is what this big media is talking about here.
That's totally untrue. President Trump as well as Secretary Mike Pompeo have both stated unequivocally a number of times that North Korea must commit to complete, verifiable, irrevocable denuclearization before any changes will be made, and that includes any economic sanctions or any other diplomatic relief either. So unless again, the ball's in their court. The President Trump even said just earlier this week that he's not going to take any action to change anything until North Korea starts acting on this.
Yes, he said, "I'm not considering any action," which means that now it's Kim Jong-un's turn to take action.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. As long as he doesn't take any action, then I'll just keep on the maximum pressure.
That's right. No, the sanctions won't change. Both the UN sanctions, additional U.S.-based sanctions, aren't going to change until Kim Jong-un is willing to show that he is truly committed to CVID.
Okay, good. And, now the Moon government here is they are suspending the GSOMIA. We call it GSOMIA, the information.
Intelligence, yeah.
Yeah. And they are suspending it, and they are talking about quitting GSOMIA totally in November, something like that. But if we look at the situation globally and the geopolitical role of Korean Peninsula or South Korea, how to call it? I mean, confronting the China and Russia here. What would be your comment on that?
Well, I think it's so important. The United States has said that they believe it's important for Republic of Korea and Japan to continue to work together on issues of national security and intelligence. Because all this does is benefit North Korea and the Chinese. And the fact of the matter is, when you have two nations which have stood so strongly with the United States, such as Korea and Japan, we need them working together in this matter. And no doubt there's a long history between the two countries, and we understand that that's going to factor into any relationship. However, on issues like national security, we need to be working together.
Okay. Actually, people like me here feels that this type of anti-Japanese hysteria, we call it hysteria, is very carefully and intentionally engineered to prepare a more serious anti-U.S. campaign. That is what I feel. I mean, by galvanizing anti-Japanese sentiment, then the natural conclusion of it or natural extension of it can become anti-U.S. So what they have in their mind is to weaken this ROK-U.S. alliance, as well as the security cooperation between Korea and Japan. That is what I feel here.
Yeah, I don't think it's in either country's best interest to not be cooperating. I just think that the challenges that we face collectively are so much greater. The growing aggression of China, the ongoing negotiations with North Korea. That's what's truly important right now to ensure the security of both the region and globally. And so that's why the United States has been so proactive and hopeful, really, that Japan and Korea can resolve these issues and move forward in a collective security framework.
Yes, as for the collective security framework, when time comes, I mean, when we Koreans overcome this political chaos or political, how can I say, I would call it madness, whatever. When that time comes, we hope that that there can be a kind of a real collective security system like NATO here. We need it to defend us against China and Russia.
Well, look, something like that has to start with working together on intelligence and security matters.
That's right.
So it
Exactly.
really is important to resolve that.
And some people here tend to present the Trump administration as a very cheap businessman's administration, like by shedding full light on the slogan like America First, or the sovereignty of a state, of a single state. And how would you interpret it? I mean, how would you explain what that slogan really means?
Well, President Trump and his administration have long said that America first does not mean America alone. So America is still going to continue to work with its allies. He also said last week in his UN speech that the future does not belong to the globalists, but to sovereign nations. And what all he's saying with that is that's up to the leaders of each country to look out for the interests of their own people. He doesn't expect that leaders of any country are going to be looking out for America's interests more than him, the same way that he needs to look out for America's interests predominantly over anyone else. But again, he still believes that nations can work together, alliances matter, and whether that's through trade in the economy, whether that's through security agreements, there can be a strong relationship with America continue to lead in the world the way it has for generations now, but done so through the prism of respecting the sovereignty of each individual people.
Actually, you're saying, or actually Trump's saying, reminds me of what Nietzsche said. I'm a self-proclaimed Nietzschean, okay? And he said that it is very important, very vital to know one's own true interest. What one's own true interest is, the essence of our life. So unless each country takes care of its own business, the relationship between between countries cannot develop.
Well, and look, I mean, a lot of that stems from the fact that ultimately leaders are accountable to the people of their country. And
right.
if you're not looking out as a leader for the people who are sending you there to do the job, then they're going to turn you out of office pretty quickly, right? That's how it works in a democratic system.
Okay.
And so you've got to respond to the people that elect you there, and also understand that we can do so in a cooperative way globally.
Okay. And today I met a friend, not a friend, an acquaintance on the street, who is not quite friendly toward me. And he just sneered or laughed, and he at me, and he said, Trump is going to be impeached. So I told him, I doubt it. But I'm asking you, what is the chance of impeachment, or what is this turmoil about?
So look, the Democrats in America have been so committed to trying to ruin the presidency of Donald Trump from day one that it doesn't matter what the facts are. They're going to try to bring about some sort of charge at some point against him. They've been working on it. They couldn't prove anything with the Mueller investigation. They've now moved on to the next issue that they think they can grab onto, all within 12 months almost of the next presidential election.
Yeah.
So, the fact of the matter is this. Democrats might end up trying to bring something forward in Congress. Republicans are likely to oppose it, and especially if anything got to the U.S. Senate, it's not going to go anywhere. If anything, I think what this does is emboldens President Trump's political base in the United States. And so I think this actually could have a boomerang backfiring effect on the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I think so. And, here we have a saying, when you fight somebody with your sword, sometimes you give him your flesh, but instead you cut his bone. So actually, this Ukraine stuff, if Trump gets hurt this much, Biden gets hurt this much. Actually, this is Biden.
Well, yeah, and you know, so
Which matters.
Yeah, I don't think this helps Joe Biden being in the news this much. I mean, if anything, the person this probably helps the most are all of his the candidates running against him in the Democratic primary.
Like Warren.
Yeah, and Elizabeth Warren's now leading in New Hampshire and Iowa, according to most recent polls. Those are the two states that vote first in the primary election process. And so, if I'm Joe Biden, I'm not sure I'm very happy that the House is trying to talk about this for much longer.
But they will talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
They are bound to talk about it.
Yeah.
And what if for example, Warren is nominated as a Democrat candidate for the presidency? What does it mean? How Americans will feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge for Elizabeth Warren is that she is so identified as being part of the left socialist part of her party.
Extreme left.
Extreme left, beyond left. I mean, she's the original.
Beyond left.
Her and Bernie Sanders are the original leftist left. You know, it's so I just don't know how she's going to be able to go into the living room of average Americans and tell them that she actually has their best interests at heart, and tell them that they can agree on these issues, because she's just so radical. Plus, you throw in the fact that the American economy is so strong right now. Unemployment's at one of the lowest rates in almost 50 years. Wage growth is up for the first time in a generation. You know, this is going to be an economic election, and so I just don't know how Donald Trump is not successful, especially against a radical socialist like Elizabeth Warren.
Yes, actually, you know, there are some, not many, but some Koreans here who are saying that the more Democrats attacks Trump with this Ukraine Biden thing, the more Trump supporters get angry, and the more the chance of extreme leftist being nominated as a Democrat candidate.
That's right. That's right. I mean, and this just goes to show you that the Democrats have been trying to play politics now for 3 years since Donald Trump's been elected, and they still can't get it right.
Actually, you know, that kind of I mean, how can I say, the mental collapse, mind collapse, I think framework collapse. I think Democrats are now losing their sight, their vision, their framework. And you cannot win without any, you know, vision or framework. You cannot win a big election. No, so you know, only after Democrats have succeeded in defining their framework or worldview totally again, which is quite appropriate, quite right. You know, unless they do that, you know, there's no chance for them to win any president election.
Well, when you know, America sees that firsthand, right? When you look at countries like Venezuela, when you look at what's now happening with human rights abuses in China, you start seeing that if you start slowly but surely giving up your freedoms and your rights economically, it's not long before the government has so much control and so much power that they can try to tell you what to think, they can tell you who to vote for, they can tell you what you have to read. And so it's, you know, it's so close and an obvious vision for Americans right now, because they see it on TV and they see it in real time. I know that you see it here even more closely than we do in America.
Oh.
But so when you look at that, you start realizing that we can't risk radical leftist policies like Elizabeth Warren's in order to try to actually move America forward.
You cannot. And not even you personally, but most of the Americans, they cannot.
That's right. That's right.
That's a pity for Democrats. I mean, they have lost their mind.
Yeah,
they have lost their perspective.
That's right.
Yeah. You know, when I see, I would say, I'm sorry, I'm looking at schizophrenia.
From the Democrats?
Yes.
Yes. Well, because they're being guided by their hatred of President Trump. It's not being guided by anything that they truly believe. Yeah, that's right.
I see. So now, actually, I envy Americans very much. I'm jealous with green. I'm green with that jealousy.
Yeah.
So, you know, what Peter Drucker once put it this way: the American genius lies in politics.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that? No?
Yeah, I had not heard that, but that's a good one. Yeah,
American genius lies in politics.
right.
They can define the rule and they can elect the right representative. Either it is a congressman or it is a president. And that is what he means. And then Peter Drucker added, there is only one people on this globe who can productize, who can commoditize softwares and films and entertainment and knowledge services.
Mm-hmm.
And this people is American. That is what he said.
Mm. Yeah, it's powerful, right?
Yeah. Well, he's an Austrian. He's a Jew.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a great thinker, Peter Drucker.
Yeah.
And so with my jealousy just kept inside me, okay? With my envy kept inside me, I would like to ask you one question. As you know, we are in the middle of a great political conflict and political confusion now.
Right.
What would be your advice with regard to what kind of a strategy or weapon we should use or we need to develop more? From your experience with all the campaigns. And
Well, I think what's so important is speaking both authentically from the heart about what you believe. Because the message, at the end of the day, if you don't have a message that resonates, that's authentic, people can see that. It doesn't matter how much you try to spend on expensive packaging. If ultimately the product isn't something someone likes, they're not going to buy it. So I'd say that's first and foremost. Secondarily is you really speaking directly to people. Not relying on others to communicate the message. And that's why social media is so important.
social media, like streaming.
Yeah,
YouTube streaming.
YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. All these are ways to communicate directly to people these days. I mean, I think technology has really revolutionized the way in which we can communicate with one another and the way we run campaigns.
Do you think Mr. Zuckerberg, or the owner of the Google, really imagined, this type of a social media can galvanize people like people like us? I mean, the conservative, ordinary people. Do you think they have envisioned it?
I don't think a bunch of liberals hanging around San Francisco had intended for their inventions that they've made quite a bit of money off of, by the way, to be used to advance the conservative movement so well.
Yeah, actually, I felt the same way. This social media, like a YouTube streaming or Facebook or Twitter, it helps you to have your own individual perspective.
That's right.
And when many people, have, each of them has his or her own individual perspective, then the totality tends to converge toward truth.
Well, because it encourages people to think for themselves.
That's right.
Because they have to sort through all of the media, right? You can't just believe what you see on one station or the other. You've got to go through multiple sources to actually find out what the truth is these days. And so social media allows people to do that. Modern technology allows you to do that. So in a way that we couldn't a generation ago, or even 20 years ago, where you were dependent upon the mainstream media. Now you can actually get your information and news from a number of different sources, and you as an individual can decide and figure out what the true meaning of anything is.
That's right. And let me philosophize a little bit.
Yes.
It was Kierkegaard who said, only individuals can be truthful. Crowd inevitably is fake. And Nietzsche told that only when you have your own individual perspective, you become an individual.
Right, right.
So, these guys are like 150 years ago and 200 years ago. These guys just told the story.
They were prophetic. They could sense it coming.
Yes, that's right, exactly. And how can I say, with this new media, this type of new media, individualized, personalized communication, truth comes out, and truth sometimes are very painful. there's a saying in the Bible. I mean, truth will set you free.
Yeah, that's right.
Let me be a little bit more bold. Okay, that is, Jesus told it, but Jesus said it, but I would rather put a little thing on top of it. But truth can kill you, and can be very painful. Still, it sets you free.
Well, the most important thing to know is the truth, right?
That's
because
right.
then you can know how you actually truly feel about something.
Integrity.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the latest virtue humankind has found.
That's right.
Okay, so what you're saying to me or to my viewers is that develop your own perspective, each of you individually, with this powerful communication tool,
Right.
the streaming, the YouTube streaming, and the Facebook and the Twitter, and here we have another one, Katok. So that is your final advice.
It is, and because everyone these days is a citizen journalist.
Yeah.
We have the power in the palm of our hands. When we have that iPhone or whatever type of phone you have in the palm of your hands all day long, you are now a journalist every time you go on Twitter. Every time you go to an event, you go to a rally, you go to you see a politician walking around. I mean, we're all
right.
journalists in our own right these days, and so that's an incredibly powerful thing.
That's right.
That if used for the purposes of something good, which is often to tell the truth, then can be truly changing and revolutionary for modern day politics.
Okay, and that is why Mr. Trump is so very seriously playing with Twitter.
Yeah, well, because it lets him communicate directly to voters. It doesn't go through the filter of some mainstream media or some talking head. It's him communicating directly to people.
And that is why the mainstream media hates him so much.
May just put them out of business.
Okay, and thank you. And you are now going back, a couple of days later or tomorrow. So have a nice trip to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Really
And-
appreciate you having me and for your hospitality.
And see you around on this globe.
That's right. That's right.
On this globe.
That's
Yeah?
right. I'm
Okay.
sure I'll be back soon, and you're always welcome to come visit us in Washington, D.C. as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
네, 감사합니다.